What's up, beautiful people? My name is Presley Kane, and this is Reframe. Today, we'll be discussing 3 legal study drugs that you can use to your advantage to help you study for your exams in college and university. Quick disclaimer, this video is for people that are 21 or older for one of the drugs, but 2 of these, if you're 18 or older, you can partake in. The 3 study drugs are as follows. 1, nicotine lozenges. 2, caffeine. And 3, hunger, good old fasting. To get into the negatives first, there are of course negatives with the use of drugs. That's just how it works. And every time you use a study drug, just realize that you are becoming addicted to that drug, whether it's caffeine, whether it is nicotine, not so much fasting. But I want you to use these drugs as an advantage to you, not as something that you need to study, not as a crutch. These are not making it so that you only study when you do these certain things. That is a very important thing to get out of the way. And now let's get into the positives, and then I will sort of get into some more negatives at the end, but it's very important that we get to the positives so that we can then understand some of the negative repercussions that go along with them. Hunger. Let's start out with the easy one that's not really a drug that anyone can implement. Hunger. I have a video linked down below from Andrew Huberman, and it details hunger and how it can use and help the brain neurally if you want the proper science behind this. But anecdotally, it does 3 things. It enhances your focus, it improves cognitive function, and it promotes neurological efficiency. This is because the body prioritizes the essential functions within it, not the unnecessary functions. So you're hungry, you're gonna devote all your brain energy and brain power to the essential functions like thinking, like, okay, where am I gonna get my next food source? So I think this goes back to primal beings. And then second, it's going to improve cognitive function. Periods of fasting are attributed to low blood glucose levels, which can increase some brain cognitive function. But essentially what fasting does is it makes your neurons more efficient at processing functions. Neurons are the things that your brain sends signals through, and the more efficient these neurons are, the more efficient you can think and the faster you can think. So hunger just increases these efficiency levels and directs more energy and brain power towards the actual firing of the neurons, from my understanding. I was first introduced to the idea of nicotine lozenges by Alex Hormozy, who is an entrepreneur. I was watching a normal video of his as just kind of a day in the life, and he has this list of things that he uses to really increase productivity. And hunger and caffeine, earplugs, timers, all this crazy stuff. But what stuck out to me that I really hadn't heard of before was nicotine. And nicotine increases alertness through the increase of neurotransmitters that can increase your attention span and alertness. It improves your memory. It is found to enhance certain cognitive functions. So it is not directly improving your ability to remember things, but it is making your brain more turned on and more noticed at what you're doing. Therefore, you can remember more of what you're doing. It can also reduce stress, according to some people, but I've also heard the opposites from others. So I won't comment on that. You may have increased stress on it, decreased stress on it. Myself doesn't seem to be affected, so I'm not sure what that's about, but something I want you to know about so that you're an educated consumer. And again, that video is linked down below if you want to learn more. And then finally, let's talk about caffeine. Caffeine is something you probably all use. Caffeine is probably something you're all familiar with. If you want to know the exact science behind it, I've linked another Andrew Huberman video about caffeine down below. But caffeine boosts your energy levels. It increases alertiveness. It makes it easier to maintain sort of focus over long periods of time, and especially during early parts of the day. It can enhance cognitive performance as well, similar to the way the nicotine does, in increasing your working memory, your reaction time, and your vigilance, sort of contributing to your overall productivity. It also has a deep increase in a fasted state. So when you're fasted and there's nothing in your system and you intake caffeine or nicotine, these drugs impact your body a lot more strongly, and the side effects are much greater. The effects are much greater. And that's the reason why you have to be careful when you're doing this fasted, because you could easily drink too much caffeine. You're just jittery now and you're not studying good. You could easily take too much nicotine and you're just jittery now and you're not studying. The lowest doses of nicotine lozenges that I've found are 2 milligrams. I usually like to try and get 1 milligram, so I cut them in half. And if I'm a fasted state, I will always cut them in half. And then caffeine, I will use 1 cup of coffee, a small cup of coffee, and that's all I need to get a lot of work done in the mornings. And then I can't really carry on this way far into the afternoon because I need brain food to power my brain by this point. Not eating until 5 p.m. is kind of rough, but I have done it. I have tried it. I do not recommend it for most people. It was cool. No longer something I do. Okay, so now that we've talked about all these positive benefits, I want to reiterate the negative side of this. These are tools that are meant to help you in your abilities and get you through rough weeks. These are not things that you should rely on 24/7, because if you do rely on them 24/7, they could, and this is something I've seen in myself and something I've had to watch myself on, so I'm warning you from personal experience. You can see an increase in mania and manic actions and manic states of mind, and that is defined as the following. Characteristics of mania include increased talkativeness, rapid speech, a decreased need for sleep, racing thoughts, distractibility, and an increase in goal-directed activity and psychomotor agitation. And the link from the NIH article on this on this mental state will be linked down below. Some of these qualities sound very good at first hand, You love talking fast, you love increased talkativeness, the racing thoughts, the increased in goal-directed activity. Those sound very good on the surface, but I think what this definition really is leaving out, and what it really means truthfully, is, imagine this. I'll tell you a story about my personal life, actually. I remember a very stressful week, and I was partaking in caffeine, nicotine, and the hunger. I was doing it all, and I was using it to its full effect. I had a very stressful hell week. It was awful. But I learned a lot about myself through that week, and it was that I need to decompress and spend time not worried about things and not on these drugs, in a calm, comfortable state, allowing my mind to sort of roam free. Because what these drugs do is they tell you to focus and hone in on a single direction. And being single-minded is great, yes, for some things. It's great when you're studying, it's great when you're working, but you cannot live 24/7 single-minded, just zoned in on what you're worried about. And I found myself walking up the Baxter Hill. If you know anything about UGA and about the Baxter Hill, you know it's rough. And I'm walking up this hill, and I'm just going, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I wasn't enjoying the moment. I mean, it was a beautiful fall day at this point in time that I specifically remember. It was a beautiful fall day. And I looked around, and I was like, wow. I don't even remember walking up the hill. Which may not be the worst thing to forget, but the same concept applies to everything. It's like, how many actions during that day was I not present for because I've been zoned in, locked in, so focused on what I had upcoming and what I had for these tests. So I think it's incredibly important to use these substances as needed and not to rely on them wholly. That was my message today, and I hope that you learned something. To recap, use hunger or fasting to increase the effectiveness of caffeine and nicotine, and use them to your advantage if you need them and if you're 21 years or older. Thank you so much for watching, beautiful people. If you like this video, you'd probably like this video. I'll see you soon.